Hi, my name is Chuck Mazzarella, and I am the author of The Lion Shares. It is a self-published short story collection that contains 39 short stories and 8 poems. I am going to read for you tonight the third part of an unpublished story called 30 Months. Again, to emphasize, this is an unpublished story that hopefully will be in a second collection of short stories that I will release at the end of this year or beginning of next year sometime. This story will definitely be in this collection. It's all about, will the book come out? I'm sure it will. So anyway, this is the third part of this story. Briefly, this is a story that takes place in Perth, Australia. It's about a woman in her 40s that is a vice president of finance that's giving a party at her summer home. She is currently in a relationship, but she is looking for her next boyfriend, companion, however you want to put it. And she's been using an exclusive dating service to do so. So the story talks about the party and some of her thoughts and views that she sees during the day and time there, and about her using this dating service to find her next companion. This is the third part of 30 Months. There's no formal dinner being served tonight. A buffet will be available all evening, and the waiting staff will come around with hors d'oeuvres, drinks, and petite sweets until the last guest departs. All is informal, and people are encouraged to enjoy the grounds, the manor, and to converse or relax in other respectable ways. Security is also present should the need arise. A quintet of brass and strings will play in the ballroom, and a DJ will play tasteful and at times lively music on the large verandas. Music will be played on a sound system at the beach as well. Lifeguards and a bar will also be in place. Some wait staff may also attend to guests on the beach if snacks are desired. Elegant and unparalleled is my hope for this evening, a night of fairly wholesome enjoyment for all who attend. It is also my hope that I meet the man for this upcoming 30-month cycle. I change into something more elegant but comfortable as my evening is about to commence. The sky still is a pale blue as I descend the grand staircase and enter the ballroom, now more raucous than before, as several conversations reverberate off the high ceiling and walls. The shaded windows cut the glare of the brilliant day as guests gaze at the amazing view. I notice a few people heading towards the beach while some are on the return trip. The musicians set up as I turn on my graciousness. I find myself being less catty as usual as I take in the scene and assess what some people are wearing. Conversation is about the 2 people chosen to be recognized for their accomplishments this year. Rarely is it more than one. Some smaller cities and towns acknowledge their citizens that have made life in their corner of the world better for some or many. Pictures are taken and speeches are given to say thank you. Australia Day is a day to celebrate being Australian. Of the many charitable souls, usually one rises to the top each year and is honored. A patriotic and relaxed vibe emanated through the room as people discussed the latest events and other splendors. Not a wicked or dark cloud seems to exist in the souls of those in attendance. Spirits are gay and at ease for this is a party after all. I take time to be cordial and laugh at some dry humor as I scan the room for Arthur and the 5 male faces new to me. I notice there is a splash of color on the buffet tables and all tables throughout the room. The caterer went with wildflowers and pastel-colored tablecloths. The humongous crystal punch bowl stands alone on the table set aside for sweets which have not yet to be displayed. I wanted a 70s themed party where guests could arrive in period attire or choose not to. The decor and nosh would at least be spot on. People remember the little details that go into making a party over the top. I am at ease and fine and full of pride as I recognize Arthur and make my way over. Arthur grabs my hand, and I am introduced to 10 people at once, 5 men and their dates. I do not make any effort to remember the names of the new women, and I already know the names of the men. Some pleasantries are exchanged, and I pull aside the first candidate and whisper that he should follow me. He does. Randomly, I choose the first man and escort him to the study. We sit down, and the interview begins. Every applicant is aware of why they have been invited today, so informal conversation ensues with each candidate as the interview process is repeated 5 times while the sun sets and the evening wanes. My questions start off small and then graduate to where I receive honest answers while mental boxes are checked. The range in age of men for this cycle spans 32 to 45, as I have no interest in dating a man much older than myself, nor one young enough to be my son. My primary goal is to find someone I am at ease with, who can both listen and discuss, and no one that will complicate my life any further. Stress is not desired. I seek companionship and stimulating conversation over eroticisms. They have to be at or near my level of intellect and have already built themselves a well-established life where neither of us is intensely dependent upon the other. It is already understood that the finances would remain separate, and I have a security staff that I can call upon at home or at the exchange, so if the explained rules of the engagement are broken, removal can be sudden and permanent. Only one time did a cycle end abruptly, only a third of the way through, as an insurmountable difference arose. Some gentlemen do not make it past the trial period, however, and this is to be expected. Once a man takes me out, a clock is started and the declaration of the contract signed becomes binding. The name of the agency I deal with is Resplendent Interactions. It is a relationship management agency for those in higher socioeconomic brackets. Clients are usually in powerful positions of business in the field of entertainment or hold government titles. They operate throughout the world and have existed for almost 100 years. Prior to the existence of a company like this, the well-off usually were Prior to the existence of a company like this, the well-off usually were placed in relationships arranged by older family members. After World War I, there arose a need for a business like this, as people were becoming affluent in more countries around the world, and Europe shook from economic tremors almost to the point of instability. Arthur is just one of the staff members located in Australia who works for RI. He has been assisting me for over 10 years, and I trust him immensely. He handles the relationship contracts and non-disclosure agreements when those are needed. Most of the arranged relationships through 7 cycles have been with men that lived outside of Perth. All have been from Australia, however, though a few guys were not born here. Excuse me. While I lived in Sydney, and before that London, I was only vaguely aware of RI and I had no need for their service then. Within a month or two, my eighth cycle with resplendent interactions will most likely begin, and Arthur will be at my disposal the entire time. He is a busy man, but is very prompt in returning calls or addressing concerns. The agency offers a customizable contract where the average agreement lasts 30 months. Some clients choose a lesser amount of time, while others leave a contract more open-ended, renewing if a relationship proves to be stable and still viable. Arthur understands my needs and honors my wishes by not pressing me about unforeseen legal snafus. I remind him that that is what I pay him and my personal lawyer for. The paperwork and screening process covers most of the technical jargon, and candidates either commit to the limitations or are found unsuitable and are rejected, even before knowing for whom they would be eligible. Weary from my time in the study and tired of verbal offense, I seek to gather strength by relaxing with friends as I finally sit down to my own supper party. The canapes are delectable, and in tasting the Newburg, I wish I had asked the caterer to include an egg station if someone wanted to have a poached egg with their lobster. Maybe I can have him set something up for tomorrow's brunch. I am sure he can deliver. In the background, I recognize the strain of an enchanting piece of music. Vider would have loved it. I enjoy the company of old friends as we catch up on the events of each other's lives over the past several months. Listening politely but being distracted, I find my thoughts are of the facts I learned in recent hours. I know I will speak with Arthur again tonight, but my decision process has already begun. One name in particular comes back to me with increasing vigor: Trevor Anfield, the only candidate who also hails from the British Isles. Though it has been almost 20 years since I called England home, perhaps I now find myself longing for a connection to my rural village. Yet not every moment from my youth is of snowfalls and tea parties. Nothing horrific happened to me, and I am grateful for that. For life as a woman is sometimes enough of a challenge. It is difficult being a woman in a world where men are emphasized and preferred. I think it is shameful that for millennia not much has been expected of females, and the role of a woman has been so ill thought of. It amazes me that so little has been expected of women through the ages. You would think men of the same ethnic background would not be able to fathom the idea of lowering the expectations of females that look like them. Somewhere eons ago, it was decided that women cannot learn skills. They existed solely to make offspring, and the extent of their role is to attend to children and domestic chores. I do not use generalities, and I am no sociologist. I understand that the role of females in certain societies is elevated for whatever reason, but I would find it difficult to find someone that has a strong argument that it has been difficult to be a woman and still continues to be so this day, despite the advancements and opportunities. My simple question is this: why has it taken so long to acknowledge that women should be equal to men? Why does inequality still exist today? This is the reality half the world lives in, and it is changing the views of males where growth will take place. It will still be many years until the social balance is level regarding gender. While I grew up in the 1970s in England, I was witness to the dominance of men. We had our queen and then a female prime minister. Much progress in improving the role and conditions for women took place while Margaret Thatcher was in Parliament. Yet those were difficult years as the economy greatly weakened. Seeing so many people out of work and hearing stories from my parents as they chatted in the kitchen about had some influence on me. There were arguments at times about the budget and yelling at the telly when more jobs were cut at some factory somewhere. My mother told me of such sad events several times, especially when we would visit my grandmother. I sat at the kitchen table and drew or something while they discussed men and some lady's husband losing his job about after being there since Dickens. I learned more about the world in my grandmother's kitchen than I did in most classes at university. I also learned how to get my heart broken a couple of times, and how most young men only have one thing on their minds. Someone pretends to love you and says sweet words, while you both may have been drinking too much, and they take off their crown while they try to get you to take off your slacks for them. Only once did a guy go further than I liked, where a fright I had never known appeared that evening. This is a guy I had known for a while and who surprised me by his actions. Luckily, I knew there were fellow students asleep in nearby rooms, and he knew what would happen if I screamed. Thankfully, I had not been that intoxicated and believe I was not as affected by the situation as if I were sober. Those dormitory rules do exist for students' protection, after all. I did learn to be more cautious from that experience and feel more comfortable with the dating contracts drawn up for me by resplendent interactions. Meeting certain men that live in England or hearing certain accents still does stir up complex feelings for me as I try to be a strong woman in a competent and lucrative position. There are times I tire of having to be the stoic female so many rely on to make decisions without the appearance of emotion. I want to remain in a position of great responsibility and not appear to be very vulnerable. Sometimes it would be nice not to have to filter my speech and be able to react with more compassion to the plights of another in this sea of business in which I swim. At least as a woman, I am allowed by society to be irritable at times, wear whatever fashion choices that appeal to me, cry more often, and hug coworkers without a second glance having to be made. And that is the third part of 30 months.